Hello, everybody. Welcome into our pre-show here at Computer America. It's our all Linux show today with Computer America correspondent Marcel Gagné as we begin 2 hours of the Computer America show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Marcel always, we always have a lot of fun things that he talks about and displays. We'll talk about all the show notes and how you can follow along with us. We'll do that momentarily. In the meantime, sit back, relax, enjoy 2 hours of the Computer America show. We'll be beginning
1 minute until showtime.
In a few minutes. How about a little James Bond music?
Okay, that works for me. It's one of the most recognizable themes in the world. Next to da 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 da. Next to that, and of course, space, the final frontier. Da, 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 da. Oh, and then the Doctor Who theme. Holy crap, there are a lot of recognizable themes now that I think about it. And I'm starting to think they're all science fiction themes, except.
And what does that say?
It says, I love science fiction. I'm a science fiction geek. I love science fiction. I do.
All right, and here we go. We're going to have to stop the music and start the Computer America show in 15 seconds. Stand by.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And welcome into another edition of the Computer America show. It being the day that it is, it means it's our all Linux show today. Yes. Everything you want to know about Linux and more, we're going to be discussing on today's show. Marcel Gagné joins us for both hours. And it should be a lot of fun. Just all you have to do is, if you want to, we'd love to hear from you. 347-884-8881. We'll get you on to get you through. Of course, you can always submit a question at any page at ComputerAmerica.com. Just go to the upper right-hand corner of any page, click the Submit a Question link, and we'll see everything that you've typed, and you can submit your questions that way. You can also watch our live video streaming portion. Just head over to ComputerAmerica.com, click on any page there, the menu bar, it says Show Lounge. You'll be taken instantly to our live video streaming page. You'll be joined to the show already in progress, and you can watch the show as well as listen to the Computer America show. Ben, anything you want to mention or say to, I guess, before we bring Marcel on the program?
Anything worth mentioning? No. No, I'm good. I usually have something for this. I usually say, visit our website. Be sure to check out all of our archives.
Yeah.
Yesterday's show was great with Darius Derek Shani. I mean, I usually say something, but I'm just like, I'm good.
Okay, all right. Well, as I said, Marcel Gagné is the author of several books, including Moving to Linux, Kiss the Blue Screen of Death Goodbye, now in its second edition. Other books include Moving to Ubuntu Linux, and his newest title is Moving to Free Software. He was also a Linux Journal monthly columnist. His column was titled Cooking with Linux. Marcel was also a regular columnist for Linux Magazine. He was senior editor and columnist for Ubuntu Magazine and other publications. Please welcome author and columnist and now Computer America correspondent Marcel Gagné to the show. Hey, Marcel, welcome to Computer America. How are you?
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm doing just fine. Minus the lack of sleep, which will take me, which I'll never have. I was just telling Ben before we went on the air that I had this professor back in college who used the expression, you can sleep when you're dead. It was actually the first time I'd ever heard that expression, and And as I quipped, I fear he may be right.
Question, and this is nothing against those who are from this generation, but was he from the greatest generation?
I don't know, what was the greatest generation. I thought millennials considered themselves the greatest generation.
We definitely do. But the greatest generation is the generation that fought in World War II and Vietnam and.
Yeah, that would be him. Yeah, he was one of those. Yeah.
So
because he was probably my age when I was in college. So yeah, that would.
Right. So that generation just runs on testosterone and that's them.
Yeah.
Well, as I blame the children. I have two boys. One of them who has has had sleep issues since the day he was born. So I blame the boys. And Craig, you sound like you've got a cold.
No, I guess it's a little early in the morning for me, and I just had to clear out the cobwebs. I haven't had any breakfast. I haven't eaten anything.
Oh, dude, man, get yourself a protein bar or something.
No, it's just. But anyhow. Here we are.
We can eat on the show now? Wow, turkey dinner.
We drink on the show, so I'm not sure why we can't eat on the show.
Absolutely.
And we'll be talking about that. By the way, if you want to follow along, Marcel takes the time to do this for our listeners, and I highly recommend that you do it. When you go to the ComputerAmerica.com website, you'll see the today's show with Marcel. If you click on it, there will be a link there. It's called Cheat Notes, and if you click on that, it'll open up in your browser a Google Docs document, and it'll be dated May 19, 2006. Gotta serve them up and install them all is the title of this document, and you can follow along with as Marcel has posted, obviously, to topics today. Most importantly, there are links there that you can click on and follow along so you can see what we're talking about. And it just makes for a more interactive experience. He's got photographs, he's got pictures, and he does this all specifically for our show, Computer America. And so I highly recommend that you open up the Google Docs document and follow along with us. The other thing, of course, is that the live video stream, Ben has the technology to display websites, videos, movies, links, everything. So you can also see it if you're following our live video stream. So there's a little redundancy there, but when you watch Ben doing it and you see the links, you cannot click on the links. You can just see the document. And my point to you is that you can follow along, but you can actually have the document that has the links with it. So it just makes it for a more interactive experience. But that's all available, and again, we thank Marcel for taking the time to make this document that we call the cheat notes that you can follow along. So that's up and running. Again, 347-884-8881 is the number that will get you on and get you through as well. And so I think we should probably get started. And before we do, let's talk about the wine of the day. Because
all right. See, it's an important thing. I pointed out to friends on Facebook and Google Plus that it's I get to cheat. I get to drink wine earlier in the day than most people normally do, I guess. But that's fine. That's fine. I'm totally cool with that. It's a burden I have to bear, and I'm perfectly happy to do it. Yes, today's wine. There it is. Hold on.
Ooh, it looks good too.
Actually, it's very nice. It's lovely, actually. This is here. I'll hold the bottle up, and it's also in the show notes, of course. But this is a Chilean wine. It's a Calaterra. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon 2014 Calaterra Reserva, and it's an awesome wine, actually. I mean, it is really, really good. As you can tell, probably the people who might be looking on Google Hangouts there can tell. This is like a deep, deep red. It's a dark red wine.
Yeah.
Deep ruby red. It's got lovely berry sort of flavors, like dark berry sort of flavors. Finish is not terribly long, kind of I'd call it a medium finish, but my, this is like really nice. And in Canada, this thing sells for just under $10 a bottle at the LCBO, which means, I don't know, you guys can probably get it for like $3 or something. But seriously, this is a great little wine if you can get your hands on it.
How does a winery make a profit, but they're selling, because that means they must be selling it for like $3 a bottle or something. How do they even make a profit, a go of it? I never really got that,
I don't ask questions. I just drink the stuff.
It's because they ship it in like gas trucks, and then like behind the counter, like behind the shelf, they refill it bottle by bottle by the gallon. More like the dispenser handles.
I don't even think they could make a profit that did it that way. I don't see how they do it. But all the more power to them. They obviously figured out a way to do it.
Yeah, especially when you consider. I mean, some of the stuff is, obviously this stuff, is like I said, it's a Chilean wine. So I mean, they package, they make the stuff down there. They package it up. They bring it, they ship it by whatever means over here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there are wines. There are wines that go from very inexpensive, obviously, to just completely ridiculous. I mean, I actually listened to a show just recently, which was what was called. It's called Sour Grapes. It was actually a documentary on CBC Radio, and they were talking to one of the authors of a documentary that was actually, it's probably just out, and I'm trying to remember what it's called. Probably Corked or something like that. Maybe it's called Sour Grapes. I don't know. Anyway, but they were talking about just how much people are willing to pay for wine, especially in the in the high end in the high end market where people go to auctions, and they're collectors and so forth. And you're talking like millionaires who stock up a wine cellar with the idea that you collect some of these bottles, you age them for a while, you can resell them for more than they were worth, or just for the for the sheer prestige of doing it. And there was this guy who came on the scene a few years ago who seemingly came out of nowhere. The guy knew his wines, really knew his wines. So despite the fact that in the end it turns out he was a fraudster. He actually knew his stuff, but he was clever enough to like buy up huge quantities of very, very good wines, and then he'd fake labels and stuff like that, and he'd blend certain types to try to essentially mimic the taste of particular wines. So that you could sort of get away with it, because you got to remember, wines aren't 100% consistent. You buy a bottle that's just fantastic today. You buy exactly the same bottle, and there was something wrong with it. The classic, of course, is it was corked. Air got into the wine, and it started to go bad. So even though you had this spectacular wine, you opened up the second bottle, and it's like it just wasn't the same. But of course, wineries, work for consistency, and frankly, especially with some of the old wineries, that have been in families for centuries in some cases. It's everything. It's their life. It's their pride. It's their honor. So it was fascinating to listen to just how deep this went.
You ever seen the movie Bottle Shock? It gives you some insight into the winery.
No, I looked for it. You told me about it last time, and I was looking for the darn thing. And did you tell me where it was available? Is it actually on Netflix US?
I don't know if it's on Netflix, but I know you can certainly find it. It's out there. It has Christopher Pine, Captain Kirk, who plays Captain Kirk now. He starred.
Yep.
And the actor that just recently passed away, the really good Shakespearean actor. He's on.
Joe Pesci. No, he's still alive.
No, he was he plays
Sundance 2008, the official Bottle Shock trailer. Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman. Yeah.
Love that guy. He was awesome. Professor Snape. There will never be another Professor Snape.
He's in there. There's a lot of really good actors that you'll recognize when you see them. But it's a true story. That's the whole thing. It's based about how they brought this wine to fruition, and it became it's a story about how California stood against the French wines and won, and it's a very interesting story. I highly recommend.
I here on this show propose that we ban all words from movies that start with "This is based on a true story." I am so tired of that phrase being used in movies, because guess what? Nothing is like Hollywood.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You've both watched. Well, you better have anyway. How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
Right, and of course he would always start. He would always start out with true story, and then you knew as soon as those two words came out that what came after it was bullshit.
Right.
that was the key. You knew that whatever followed was a lie because it started out with true story.
it's interesting because if you read the credits at the end, there's always this disclaimer, and I've seen this on all these movies that are based on quote unquote true stories. It says, the basis of this picture is in fact true. He says, however, some of the characters and situations were dramatized for for the
cinematic, whatever.
Exactly. So they do take some editorial license. That's true. But the basic facts of the movie
because history books, just to really keep their kids enraptured, they talk about the revolution, and then Paul Revere had to dodge tank shells as he was riding, and then the aliens came.
Okay.
But it was just dramatized. Same thing.
All right.
You might be stretching that just a little tiny bit, Ben, but okay.
But it was entertaining.
But it is. It's based on a true story. Some of the interactions of the characters, and some of them were fictionalized. That's true. All right. Well, anyway, we are a Linux show today, and so we are.
Believe it or not.
Talk about Linux and get through one and everything, and we're going to start off with news, rumors, and that type of thing. And why don't you lead off with this first story here, Marcel?
Okay, well, now I need to switch pages because, of course, I went looking for Bottle Shock. Thanks very much. All right. Okay, so up at the top, what did I say up at the top? I said, warning, listening to this program could get you arrested. Isn't that cool? I love that. Anyway, this is actually an old story, and I say it's an old story because it dates back to originally, I think 1998 was when it started, and I've written about this. I confess that I have actually I've actually talked about, and I've written about it in my books. In fact, I think I mentioned it in most of my books, if not all of them, at least one time, because I think it's ridiculous. But when the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the DMCA, came out, by the way, one of the most stupid and egregious and bad laws you guys ever came up with, you guys, Americans, just bloody awful.
Just
it's the kind of, I mean, there are things in that law that make it possible for basically criminals to get away with crap and good people to basically, be labeled as felons. You can be a felon, for committing a crime as incongruous as playing a movie on a DVD that you bought and paid for, on a DVD player that you bought and paid for, in a house that you bought and paid for, on a computer that you bought and paid for. In the end, it's all stuff that you legally bought and paid for, but because you were running on a Linux system or another operating system where the decryption software hadn't been licensed, Linux users, and nobody was providing this stuff to Linux users for money or for any reason. It wasn't being provided. So the only option that Linux users had to do was crack it. Okay, and the DMCA makes it illegal to crack or circumvent encryption. Hear that, FBI? When you broke into that guy's phone, you guys are felons. Sorry.
Well, how's that song go? For he's a jolly good felon.
Anyway, so the short version is, so it became illegal basically to legally do something that people take for granted, and of course I know nowadays none of us watch DVDs, or Blu-rays for that matter. I know they still sell them, but we're all living the streaming life, so it really doesn't matter anymore anyway. But back then it was a big deal. It's like, hey, I've got a DVD, I want to watch it on my computer. No, you can't. Okay, well, you can, but you have to download and install this piece of software, libdecss, which, technically made you a felon because you were in violation of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So something as stupid as I'm watching a show that, on equipment, not to mention the DVD that I legally bought and paid for, and I'm still a felon. You have to think to yourself how insane this law is. That a person doing something as simple and harmless as watching a movie they paid for, could then be guilty of a crime, of that magnitude. It's insane. Anyway.
Yeah, no, but like this is a theme that we've been kind of seeing going on into this new digital era, and obviously these issues haven't really been an issue before because before it was, oh, you had proof of purchase, then it's yours, congratulations. But going forward, we're running into like immediately and by the way, you said this is like one of the worst laws Americans have created. Just give us time. We'll make something worse. Because I'm reminded of the John Deere story where
yes,
the farmer
But that was a DMCA. That was a DMCA violation as well. That was also DMCA.
Right,
I want to be able to fix my tractor. You're not allowed to fix your tractor unless you have to take it to a John Deere dealer. Well,
exactly.
why? Because if you do, you're reverse engineering, therefore in violation of the DMCA. What?
The theme going forward is, what do you really own? Do you own the code that you purchased with the disc, or do you just own the rights to view the disc? Like, what do you really own when you purchase something? And I think that's what we're seeing is, these companies have a lot of software and have a lot of, effort put into this that goes beyond the basic cost of, one single purchase. So they're trying to protect themselves, but then you run into stupid crap like, hey, I am illegally watching a DVD I own.
Exactly. The only form of encryption that has ever worked to any degree, and even that's been cracked from time to time, but the only form that actually works is end-to-end encryption. Okay, where the key is negotiated on the fly between the two parties, one side, the other side, and the communication between the two is encrypted. There has never been, let me just put it that way, I was going to use a double negative here, but there has never been a form of copy protection that works. I mean, even Keurig, with their disastrous release of Keurig 2.0, where they, it's like you're not allowed to buy anything but Keurig authorized coffee cups. Excuse me? If it's not a Keurig authorized K-cup, you're not allowed to brew your coffee with it. Well, somebody figured out that, all you had to do was, spoof the ring on top and boom, you get past it. Oh my God, those people are guilty of a DMCA violation. Now, Keurig figured out reasonably quickly that this was a public relations nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
and have backed away from that position. But in short, what they did was make, and this is what companies who do this, who put copy protection on books, on movies, on stuff like that, this is something you have to understand, okay? Especially when we're talking about people who buy the product, okay? I'm making a distinction here, who buy the product, okay? You are turning your customers into criminals, okay? You're saying, buy my coffee maker. Oh, by the way, you're not allowed to buy the coffee made by, the person who you really like to buy the coffee from. And if you do buy that coffee and figure out a way to brew it inside the coffee maker that you bought from us, you are a felon. Like that's, I can't begin to express just how insane that is. You turn your think about it, you have to say it that way. You turn your customers into criminals, and that is not good public relations.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of people, a lot of your customers come to the very quick realization that, they kind of hide behind the theory that, well, if you only use the Keurig coffee maker with Keurig approved, code protected pods, then we are protecting our equipment, and it will not malfunction as long as you keep it under these strict guidelines. Like I think they hold it under. This will protect you, this will protect the consumer, but I think people quickly come to the decision that this is more cash grab. Like now you can only purchase our labeled and licensed coffee instead of, the $4 ones off of Amazon. Like that happened. Come to cash grab before they come to security.
That happened with ink cartridges for inkjet printers as well, remember? Mm-hmm. I can't remember, I think it was it HP? Whoever it was, anyway, again, because there was a huge public relations backlash, backed off of that. But it was, oh, no. If you buy a cartridge from anyone else, you have thereby defeated the copy protection on, copy protection on ink. Excuse me?
On a copier?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so you've defeated that. Therefore, again, and let's say it as it is. You're a felon. In other words,
it kind of worked itself out. I don't know if you recall, but after that kind of stopped, stores began to open where they were literally, what they did is they just sold they would refill your ink cartridges. You could walk in, that's all.
I remember that. Stores
and it went for a while. And what happened? Eventually, it worked itself out in the sense that that they were not successful. They closed down all those stores, and people went back to buying the ink cartridges from all the drill, fill, and spills kind of went away. I mean, you can still find them from time to time, but most of them people buy the authorized cartridges, not because you're forcing them. First of all, they're more affordable or as affordable.
Yeah, they are more affordable or as affordable. That is true. That was a big change.
Right, and so basically, if they're as affordable,
but I think that was
why bother to go to something that's counterfeit I mean, these ink cartridge companies, Epson's, the H3s, they spent millions of dollars on developing these formulations and getting the.
But I think but I think
Craig, it's ink. It's ink.
Yeah,
There's nothing magical about it.
Right.
Well,
but I think that was the point of the whole thing. How much, what percentage of the customer base was truly buying knockoff ink? Before copyright protection, before all these things were put in to prevent people from doing it. 10%, and then all of a sudden, people realize that hey, something's fishy going on. Like you raise more questions, you raise more eyebrows, and you shake the beehive of a very noisy minority when you could just kind of eat the fact that hey, 10% are going to go with the knockoff, but most people, like you said, Craig, are going to go with the normal stuff.
Well, and I'll be honest. I am one of the people who tried to refill my own cartridges, and I did it once or twice, and I thought, if you'll pardon the expression, screw that. I haven't got the time, the energy, and I don't want to waste that many pieces of clothing, because this crap happens. You're right, Ben. I mean, it would have worked itself out anyway, because frankly, the alternative was just too much of a pain in the butt. But it did force the the prices down. It made things more competitive, and I can only think that was a good thing. By the way, for the record, the last inkjet printer I bought was a few months ago, and I am delighted with this thing. Shout out. I don't know if you've had these guys on the show, but the Epson EcoTank printer.
Never heard of them.
You never heard of
it? We've had Epson on the show, and we've actually talked about the EcoTank because you have these really large ink cartridges that will last for like 10 times the standard.
Well, more than 10 times. It's like, I mean, if you use it every single day, the estimate is that if you use your printer every single day, it will take you 2 years to go through the ink.
Yeah, and you're right. It's and again, this proves the point that that these printer companies are going out of the way to make sure that their products are affordable and practical. And we've had the Epson on the show many times. We'll continue to have them on. I use the Epson small in one. I love that the printer that they have. I've had them since the artisan printers, and the price of these cartridges have come way down to a reasonable area. So again, the black market ink cartridge really kind of faded away because it didn't make any sense to buy a knockoff when you can buy the actual thing for the same price or even less.
Yeah, the ink cartridges were. I'm sorry, but it was it was from the beginning a cash grab. It was a way. How can I produce small, inexpensive product and make it more expensive than the most expensive French perfume? Like, I mean, it's ink, for God's sakes. I mean, it's not that magical. Now, the EcoTank printer that I bought is so magical and so wonderful, in my opinion. First of all, because I don't have to change those stupid cartridges. That's thing number one, which are waste. I mean, there's this waste that I have to carry around and somebody has to dispose of, and from an environmental perspective, they're ridiculous. So that's thing number one. But also, I had a small, I still have it. I have a small LaserJet printer, Brother Laser, which I kept beside just for doing quick printouts of pages, that I needed to send off somewhere, quick copies I needed or whatever. And since I got the EcoTank printer, I haven't even looked at the. For all I know, it doesn't even work anymore. I mean, I don't know. I haven't used the laser printer since I got the EcoTank printer because it's so cheap, and the quality is so good that I don't need to use anything else. And Epson fully supports Linux, as does HP, by the way.
That's the solution to the problem. I mean, the manufacturers came about, and said, okay, instead of doing it, let's just make something that's better, and people will naturally gravitate to what's better, and they've done that, and I think that really solved the problem for the
Shocking that capitalism works in a capitalistic society.
Well, with a little bit of help from the consumers, if it was entirely up to the companies, I'm not sure that it would actually ever work.
Right.
By the way, for the people out there who are going seriously, I thought I tuned into the Linux show. One of the big things about Linux and open source software is freedom. It's the freedom to use what you purchase, to use what you've installed in the way that you see fit. So open source, open standards, that's that's our mantra. I mean, it is a mantra of the open source society. Anyway, or the open source community. But just to go back to the number that's going to get you arrested, because I know we're coming up on the half hour here. I am watching, Ben and Craig. That number, believe it or not, the prime number, because it's just a prime number. It's a freaking number, people. It's a number of digits. If you printed it on a T-shirt, and back in 2008, in an act of defiance, I believe it was the Free Software Foundation, FSF, put out these T-shirts, the open DVD T-shirts, which had the prime number printed on the shirt. So in short, wearing the T-shirt with a number on it, okay? It's just a number, okay? Keep that in your mind. They're just digits, a string of digits on the front of a shirt or on the back of a shirt. You were committing a felony. Think about that for a second. So for some reason, it's back in the news now. I've got links in the show notes which point to the Wikipedia entry on illegal primes, not to mention a little video that sort of explains what it is and why it is. And, of course, they make sure that they changed a couple of digits so that they don't get arrested for making the video. But there you go.
All right. All right, listen, we're at the bottom of the hour break. Ben and I are talking to Marcel Gagné. He is our Linux expert and correspondent. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back as we continue on our All Linux show today on Computer America.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
When you try to put the barbecue sauce on a rib, she slapped you. Hi, I'm Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the Vivint doorbell camera. Part of the Vivint Connected Home collection is a very clever doorbell camera. It looks like a slightly oversized doorbell, a ring-lighted button at its base. If you look very closely, you can see a small camera lens near the top, a pinhole near the center, and a grill at the bottom. This connects to the Vivint Sky Control panel with some sweet results. One chime sounds when the button gets pushed, and another when it detects a person at the door, whether or not they push the button. This also feeds two-way audio and one-way video, both to the panel and to its app. All decisions about whether or not to respond remain yours. Bottom line, a Vivint doorbell camera gives your door a watchdog with a better-than-photographic memory. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
32 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to the Computer America Show. 347-884-8881 will get John to get you through. Now, I know that Ben knows my first name, and I bet you Marcel even knows my first name. But do you know my first name? Because you're going to need to know that when you go to the Vistaprint website. It's the special code. Because, long before Vistaprint asked me to tell everyone about them, we've been using Vistaprint for years, making business cards, having the Computer America logo placed on the polo shirts we use out at conventions like CES. We make Ben walk around and display that on her shirt and say, hey, do you know I'm the co-host for, Computer America.
Emphasis on make.
Yeah, and they wouldn't know that unless they saw that lovely shirt that we made from Vistaprint. In fact, Vistaprint offers tons of custom products for home and office needs, and they absolutely guarantee you're going to love them every time, or they'll make it right. In fact, they'll give you 500 business cards for just $9.99, but you have to enter in my promo code Craig, C-R-A-I-G.
You went and told them.
Yeah, so you have to know that. So just go to their website at vistaprint.com and you'll see how easy it is to design your own stuff using their web-based custom design service. Remember to use my promo code, what is it? Craig.
Craig.
And save up to 50% over the regular pricing. Don't wait. Go to vistaprint.com and order today.
It is the worst kept secret on Computer America.
I guess. Holy cow.
I know.
And I thought we were doing something like, ooh.
I know, not even like an Easter egg hunt. It's just, hey, it's Craig. It's like, oh, all right. Fine. If you just want to give away business cards, it's your business, but whatever. So, yes, welcome back to the Computer America Show. All Linux show today with Marcel Gagné, and we are talking about, what it means to be truly free and open source, and, some of the things that go along with that, because, I think in the first hour we've really covered on, laid on thick that given the chance, the gut reaction for a lot of companies out there is to hide their products behind digital rights management software, behind to hide it in things that really are counter convenient. I guess counter convenient, just very inconvenient for the consumer, just so that in the off chance they can protect their, just in the off chance they can protect their, their software, they are willing to make their customers go out of the way, which is kind of opposite of what Linux is all about, which is free, open source, and as convenient as possible. So,
well, the other thing you have to, sorry, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to wrap it up by saying, please check out the show notes. There's a Wikipedia entry, video you should watch, and an article, if nothing else, to prove how long this has been a problem. An article again from Wired from back in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's what's and we will move on. I'll leave this off here, but here's the thing. As I said, there's never been a form of copy protection that hasn't been broken in like zero time. One of them was ridiculous. One of them, all you had to do was take a Sharpie and cover the little code on a DVD, and soon, that was it. That was how you bust the encryption. People come up with all these ridiculous ideas, and all they do is, A, you piss people off. B, the people who want to steal your stuff are going to steal it anyway. Mm-hmm. So the only people you're inconveniencing, are your customers. So stop it. Yeah, trust that the people who want to buy from you will buy from you. It's really that simple.
Like honestly, my first run-in with this was back in like the year 1997 or 98. Whenever I got my first copy of Diablo 2, and
dongles.
Right. Yeah, and of course being I think I was like 7 or 8 at the time, but they had CD keys, but because they had no authenticate on our server kind of CD key, you could literally take any CD key since the beginning of time, and that would work. Or
you had these crazy dongles that you had to plug in your parallel port or something. Like, come on.
They're so easy to get around, but these companies
well, here's the awful thing as well, and this is actually a true story, not in How I Met Your Mother true story, but a real story. I have a customer who has this old printer. It's an old image setter, and it's been around since dawn of time, and they had this is like a couple of years ago. They had a computer crash, and of course we had to go and scour to find an old computer, because this image setter was, and we're talking we're talking a machine that's $500,000. Okay, this is not a toy. It's a $500,000 machine, and the software had to run on Windows NT. Okay, fine, because that was at the time, but had to be activated with a key that you plugged into a parallel port. Okay, with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
So far. All right, now pause for a moment and consider that years later, after their PC has crashed, we have to go out and hunt for a PC with a parallel port or a slot, an ISA freaking slot, to put in a parallel port card
Didn't the printer manufacturer have an update, or did they go out of business?
Never. Never, because the printer is an old printer. I mean, it's a $500,000 printer, but it's an old printer, okay?
And they
All
didn't,
right?
they didn't offer an upgrade or a fix for
No,
it?
there was no upgrade. There was nothing like that. It's like, I'm sorry, we're not developing this software anymore. We're not developing this printer anymore. You got to have the key. So you got a $500,000 piece of hardware
Oh.
that requires this physical key that must be plugged in to an old style parallel port. Come on.
I mean, I'm sorry, but that's what I kind of count on the Linux community for. Like, they're pretty good at, taking old stuff and making, emulators or making just something that will make it work with newer technology.
Couldn't they break the code at that point? The manufacturer's not.
Okay, I never said this. I'm not going to say this, but we couldn't actually find an old computer that had a key. That had a slot for a parallel port. Okay, I'm whispering because I don't want anybody to hear that. Anyway, we actually bought a piece of code from a company out there, presumably a legit company because they sell tons of these things. They basically sell software dongles. Okay, and what you do is you run this software dongle and it fools the system into thinking that you have that particular dongle plugged in. So yes, they got around that one as well because we never actually found a PC that was in any kind of shape that we would want to reinstall on that had an ISA slot. An ISA slot, for God's sakes.
That sounds about right.
Anyway, so yes, they did get around it. Somebody got around it. I don't know if, I mean, you can find, there are companies that sell software dongles online for precisely that purpose. But, man, all right, let's move on. Because,
All right.
Because if you're okay with that, because
Absolutely.
I could talk on this single topic all day. But anyway,
Well, I'm okay on the fact is that the manufacturer of this printer is still in business.
they are.
Knows the problem and will not support the people to or
No,
offer.
but they'll sell you a new image setter though.
Yeah, right. But that their position is not to maintain this product that they've sold. Are they
Why
not?
would they?
But software companies do that all the time. I mean, you're familiar with the term abandonware,
Yeah.
right? They produce a piece of software. In some cases, like old word processing programs that you can't read. You can't read the documents that you made with the old version of their program
But it's
with their new version.
It's a $500,000 piece of hardware. This is not a piece of software.
Greg, why are
Well,
you being
and
so upset about this?
some of the
when-
documents that I'm talking about, okay, that need the abandoned software to run on, okay, might be worth millions to a company.
All right.
I'm just wondering why Craig's getting so upset when we have the best known case. We have, let's see, Apple abandoned Rosetta Stone or whatever, and Microsoft abandoned XP. I mean, companies do this all the time. It sounds like it was a really old piece of technology, and they figured it's not worth maintaining going forward.
Well, at least as you said, there's some way to get around it. There are companies that make a living.
True, but the problem in a lot of cases is you don't know. And again, I'm back to this. You're turning your customers into criminals. You don't know if if this is legitimately approved by the company. In other words, are you in violation of the law by having bought the software dongle? Because you technically supported a company that broke the encryption. I mean, it's nonsense. Anyway, let's move on because I know we have other things to cover. And yes, by the way, this is all Linux, open source, open software, open standards. It matters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, continue on.
A piece of fluff. Let's throw out a piece of fluff just before we move on to some of the stories. It's a piece of fluff, and I'm doing this because I was looking at yet another Linux distribution because I seem to do that a lot. By the way, I haven't switched since last month. I just
Okay.
I just want to make that clear. I'm still on what I was running last month. Anyway, 2 months now, or a month and a bit. Anyway, but there's a site which is kind of interesting. It's sorry, I'm jumping way. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. I apologize. Okay. Anyway, a little further down, we'll see it. I'll mention it now, but a little further down in the notes, and maybe you can find it and show it, Ben. There's a site which basically is a site of screenshots. Okay. So they list, I don't know how many Linux distributions there. and basically give you a screenshot walkthrough of all of them. One of the things we've talked about on this show a few times is the idea that, it's like, so what's different about this Linux distribution? Well, it's kind of a look and feel thing. One of the problems, of course, with running in the Windows world or the Mac world or whatever, is that, you run with what they gave you. This is the interface they gave you. This is the look and feel they gave you. And sure, you can modify the colors and stuff like that, but you can't do an actual complete overhaul of the way the desktop looks, or at least you didn't used to. I don't know if you can these days, but I suspect not. They give you a few variations on the theme, and this is what you got to go with. Whereas in the Linux world, we can make it look any way we darn well please, and it's great, and it opens us up to people saying, if you don't like to work this way, maybe you'll like to work this way. And a lot of distributions are just alternative ways to work. We've tweaked this, we've changed this to be this instead, so you have this experience as opposed to that experience. Anyway, this site, which is where is it? I've got it here somewhere, for goodness sakes. It's got every conceivable, version that you could possibly think of. It's fantastic.
All right, so where are we in the notes? Because
I don't know what I did. I jumped around and I fell off. Okay, let's just move on anyway. So the screenshot. So we have the link to the screenshot site. So you can go and check out the screenshot site. It's cool. LinuxScreenshots.org, by the way, for the people who are curious about all this. It's called Linux Screenshots, all one word, .org. Okay, it's very cool. It's fun. You can waste hours there looking at all these different distributions, going back to, goodness knows how far. Okay, next thing. Okay, there is a chart that I saw a few days ago, and I'm not going to add a lot to this, but it shows the popularity of the major, and I'm going to put it this way, the major Linux distributions over time. And it's at w3text.com/technology/history details. Again, it's in the show notes, so you can go and check it out. It's kind of cool because you get to see, the up and comer, way back when in 2010. So you go back, we're going back 6 years here, but you can see Ubuntu down at 8.9%. It was not exactly the new kid on the block, but it was new-ish. And now we're at 18th of May 2016, and it accounts for 32.4% of the installed Linux desktop distribution base. So it's kind of cool to look at that.
It's the 800-pound gorilla now, it looks like.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, Debian-based distributions which seem to be like
400-pound gorilla.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's sort of split between other Debian-based distributions.
Right.
I mean, the big player way back when was and I'm talking pre-2010 here. I'm talking back to, oh goodness, we're talking a long time ago, 1993, 94. I mean, at that time it was Red Hat.
Yes.
And Red Hat is obviously a big, hugely successful company, but they've concentrated on the corporate market, on servers. So that's where they are these days, primarily.
All right.
Anyway, it's a cool chart. Check it out. It's kind of neat to see what the trends are and where things have gone.
I mean, looking at this chart, and of course, like you said, this one goes back about 6 years. Linux obviously been around for longer than that, but yeah, you're seeing has there always been a consolidation of, maybe, has there always been like a top four?
There's always been the biggies, yes. There always has been.
Okay.
What they are has changed a little bit over time. The big names have changed a little bit over time, but they were always the ones that people tended to gravitate toward. And then there were the ones which were hobby projects, the ones that were one-offs, the ones that were fine-tuned to a specific organization, and that was their Linux distribution. And they'd give it a name. It would be the, I mentioned this place before. There's a charitable organization downtown Kitchener called the Working Center. The computer, they have a computer recycling center there, where they provide computers to people that can't afford them, and they had their own distribution for a long time. They had the Working Center distribution, so there have been an awful lot that way, but yes, there have always been the biggies.
Okay. And I guess the biggies always eventually kind of get an organization or some kind of funding to help, because I feel like a pet project or a passion project is never really going to compete with an organization that has millions of dollars to, for people to dedicate themselves to working on a distribution.
Yes and no. It doesn't mean that it can't be successful in other ways. Slackware had a huge installed base, and it was Patrick's baby. I mean, Patrick Volderking's baby. He was kind of the guy behind Slackware, and there's still people who follow and who run Slackware to this day. Uh, Linux Mint, is kind of huge. It's a hugely popular distribution on the desktop, and it's largely the work of one person. There is a community behind it, obviously, but it's largely the work and the drive of one person that keeps it going. And some would argue, and some have argued. You remember there was this thing about how their web server got hacked a couple 3 months ago, and it was a WordPress site. So it was actually a bug in WordPress, but somebody exploited a bug in WordPress to redirect people to a different link for the download of Linux Mint. And over the course of 24, 36 hours, because I think that's how long it took before the link was repaired. But over that period, anybody who downloaded it would have downloaded a copy that could conceivably have had some form of malware in it, pre-installed in it. So it's nice if you've got a lot more eyes working on it, if you've got a lot more bodies working on it, if there's a lot more oversight, to how these things happen. And of course, if it's a big organization, the big organization doesn't have to rely on on an external mirror, for the downloads and so forth. They pay for their own bandwidth, they pay for their own servers and so forth. So, that doesn't mean they can't get hacked. I mean, everybody gets hacked. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Talk to the FBI and the CIA about that one. It's happened, but it makes a lot more sense, and it can be caught a lot earlier if you've got a lot more people that are involved in it. So yeah, it helps if there's a big organization behind it. Ubuntu has certainly benefited a great deal from Canonical's ownership of it. So.
All right, makes sense.
All right. So this next story, I look. Evidently, Linus Torvald has released another Linux kernel, and I guess this is always a big deal because Linus is basically the heart and soul behind Linux.
He's the creator. Yes, he's the creator of the Linux kernel.
And so when he creates a new kernel or affects something it's considered to be a big deal.
I always love how easy it is for Mr. Torvald to make headlines. Like, he says something and he can say it, non-politically correct, and he's on every headline.
Well, he's very quotable in that respect.
Exactly.
Whether you want to quote him or not, he's very quotable. Well, there's another thing. I mean, Linus is actually the one who gives the final, kiss of approval, basically, to a Linux distribution. He's not the only. He's not the only person behind it. In fact, one of the links a little bit further down. I'll just jump ahead to that one. Just Greg Koch-Hartman, who is the guy who's in charge of the stable branch of the Linux kernel. I shouldn't have to explain stable, I guess, but whereas development is happening under the cares and eyes of Linus, but Linux is still the largest development project in the world. Like, it's monstrously huge. There are thousands and thousands of people working on the Linux kernel. There are big companies working on the Linux kernel. This is not a garage project by some enthusiasts. This is the software that runs the internet, and there are huge numbers of people working on it. But Linus is still, he's still the spiritual and de facto head of the Linux kernel. He's employed by the Linux, by the Linux Foundation, and he has the final say on what happens, but he is not the only person that's behind it by any stretch of the imagination. So just want to make that clear.
I mean, it's good to have a founder and have a face on that for historical purposes. But as you say, you don't want one guy, running the whole thing, because that's sort of anti what Linux is all about.
Well, and it would be, well, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's anti what open source and open source software is all about. It certainly goes against the grain, but it's such a huge, monstrous project,
Mhm.
that it like, I mean, just as an example, Windows runs on a very specific subset of devices.
Mhm.
Okay, it's hard to find a device that Linux does not run on. Okay, so yes, Microsoft on the desktop is still, it's what you see when you walk into a company, but it only runs on so many pieces. It runs, yeah, sure, there are thousands of PCs out there, but it only runs on so many things. Whereas Linux runs on everything: thermostats, digital watches, embedded chips of all kinds. You name it. I mean, it's everywhere. So it's a big deal, and it's a huge project. And part of what happens with, one of the reasons that it's suggested that this is a fairly, and of course every Android device, right?
Yeah.
So it suggested that Linus called it a fairly big release, the 4.6 kernel, and part of it has to do with the fact that it supports a whole new string of ARM processors, ARM-based processors, which again are very common in things like set-top boxes, NAS devices, and of course, Android. ARM is it's not difficult to find ARM there. So, and of course, there's also support for 64-bit ARM architecture, which is part of it. But there's a few other things. There's a file system, a new file system that's becoming a big thing because it's for high performance systems, big high performance systems. Orange FS, I think it's called.
Mhm.
You know, tons. I mean, there are tons of things. There are lots of different things in there, but a lot of it has to do with file system and processor support for a new class of devices.
Okay. I was expecting to see a picture of Linus Torvald in the article, but it looks to me like I'm looking at a weasel.
Oh well, yeah, well, the weasel is because it's codenamed after a weasel. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. It's called Charred Weasel. Okay, it's in honor of a very special weasel. I know you go, a very special weasel.
It must be delicious.
It must be delicious. Actually, it may have been delicious. Although I suspect they give it a nice burial or whatever afterwards. But the Large Hadron Collider had a little accident.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, a weasel.
Guard weasel, poor thing.
A weasel, crawled into the Large Hadron Collider and anyway, charred weasel.
It brought it to its knees.
Well, it's I know that particle accelerators look really cool when you watch The Flash, and you get bombarded with all this radiation and all this high energy, and suddenly you can run really fast, or your skin turns to metal, or it's pretty cool.
I mean,
But in real life, you just get charred.
You mean that's not real life? I mean, it's not based on fact. Ben was talking about The Flash is not. Oh man,
I know. True story.
Another true story.
When you Google that story, because I really want to know what it was like, because it wasn't a weasel. It was a
what was it anyway? I mean, it's called charred weasel, but what was it really then? I haven't Googled the official story, but
it was like it wasn't a mink. It was like whatever the British version of a weasel is. Like it was different, but like just Googling that story, so many editors had so much fun.
BBC calls it a weasel. BBC calls it a weasel.
Here it is. It's a beech marten. Marten. Marten.
Beech marten.
Okay, I'm gonna post the link into the chat area, and you can add it to the notes if you like. But and they should be ashamed of this. But phys.org, which is a science website, titled it "Pop Goes the Weasel." As Hadron Collider shuts down.
That's what I was going to say. Was that they had so much fun naming these things. Pop Goes the Weasel by phys.org, you just said. Kamikaze Weasel shuts down Large Hadron Collider. Big Think. I mean, all of these are just, oh my God. They love the fact that and by the way, it was a Martin. Martin shut it down.
It's like the the original computer bug. Grace Hopper.
That's where the term comes from. It was.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, there's a bug in the system, and there
Yep.
literally was back then. Yeah.
It was an actual bug that had been fried on one of the circuit boards, and anyway,
Didn't know that it would become part of history. Exactly.
it's actually in a book. I mean, this bug was taped inside of a book, so it's been, if you'll pardon the expression, preserved.
Wow. I honestly did not know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's an actual bug. I think I remember seeing that when I was, back started getting my computer science degree. They actually showed a picture of it when we were doing it. It was a computer history class. So.
I thought bug just referred to a nasty little thing that you don't want in your code.
Well, you
No,
don't.
you don't. But way back when, computer programs were actually wired circuit boards. They weren't, they weren't code that you wrote, and stored in memory.
Yep. You were right. They were wired circuit boards. They had the wires that you would actually. I remember seeing classes like that where
The more you know.
Yeah, it's amazing what people went through back in those days to get to do something. But hey, all right. So this next story. So what was this? Greg Cora Hartman. He's involved with Linux as well.
I mentioned him because he's the we sort of jumped ahead. We did cover that, but he's the head of the stable branch of the Linux kernel. He's the guy that is in charge of the stable branch. So
okay, so
just for this, we skipped over it, but I want to mention it. Okay, and unfortunately, by we've got some timing issues here, as you know. Okay, so somebody's gonna have to tweet this. I'm looking at you, Ben. Somebody's gonna have to tweet this, but there's a client for Google Drive. Google never released, which is kind of annoying because their entire architecture runs on Linux, but I digress. Google never released an official Google Drive client for Linux, probably because somebody else has already done it, and they figure, hey, what the hell, somebody else has already done it.
Well, hold on, Marcel, because we're at the top of the hour break, and then we'll continue on.
All right.
All right. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Marcel Gagné is our computer Linux expert and Computer America correspondent. It's our all Linux show on today's program. We're just going to break just for a quick top of the hour moment, and then we'll be back. What is that? Is that ferret food? We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Oh, they're almonds. Okay. Hello and welcome into hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And chewing on those delicious almonds is our guest for today, both hours, Marcel Gagné, drinking wine and almonds. And
these almonds, have you ever heard of tamarind or tamara? Oh man, I'm blowing it now. Tamarind almonds. They're soaked in a sauce that in a soy sauce.
It's actually having a good effect on you too.
Man, I'm blaming the wine at this point. Tamari almonds. Oh, for goodness sakes, dude, tamari almonds. They're fantastic. If you can get your hands on it, these are like the best almonds ever created. They're soaked for I don't know how long in a sauce. They're marinated. It's soy sauce and other
okay.
And other I can't talk. I've lost the ability to communicate here.
No, trust me. You type into Google tamari almonds and
yes, thank you. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate you, Ben. Thank goodness somebody has control over the internet.
Easy to do.
They're awesome. They're awesome. I highly recommend them. Okay, so
they look delicious. Anyway, we're back in the second hour of the show, and Marcel Gagné, our Linux correspondent. Again, you can follow along by watching the live video stream. Ben is displaying the websites, or just click on the cheat notes link at ComputerAmerica.com when you go to the Marcel link there, and you can see the Google Docs document, and you can kind of follow along. So we were just at the break where we'd finished with the toasted ferret, and we
Sorry, Weasel.
Weasel that brought down the Hadron Collider, and we're starting to talk about a different story when we had to interrupt. So why don't you continue on?
That's okay. Okay. Anyway, so like I said, there hasn't been Google never released an official Drive client for Linux, Google Drive. And as much as I love and appreciate Google, you really should have done this, guys. And as I've said many times on the show, and I'll repeat every time, God, I hope Google isn't evil. I really hope they're not evil. I know they say they're not evil, but I really hope they're not evil because I use them for everything. Anyway, including my navigation, so they could send me anywhere and I would believe them. So please don't be evil, Google, please. Anyway, so InSync is a company that produces INSYNC, INSyncHQ.com is the website, produces and I had tried some of the open source clients that people were working on. I always like to go after the open source clients first, as opposed to the commercial ones. But I have no issue supporting a commercial enterprise that does a good job with their product. And InSync produces a client, a Google Drive client, and this is a superb piece of software. I love this thing. I bought this thing 3 years ago or whenever it was, 3-4 years. I don't remember when I bought it, but I bought it back then. Yeah, for individual use. It's like $15. You buy it once, you get to keep it forever. They also have corporate, corporate plans.
Why are we looking at a countdown, Flapka? If you look at the
You're
link.
looking at a countdown because for the remaining amount of time that's there, and this is why Ben has to go and tweet this, okay? I've posted this on Facebook and on Google+, but for the remainder of that period, if you log in with Google, you as an individual, this isn't a corporate thing, this is individuals can get a copy of InSync for your Linux desktop free of charge. Okay, it's a $15 product normally. You can get it for the next, remaining a few hours that are on there. It's only a 2-day thing, and of course we're already into that period already. But if Ben tweets it, we have a good chance of getting more people who can get access to the Linux client out there. But beautiful piece of software. It has never let me down. I love this thing, like I said, I'd buy it again. I bought it 3 years ago or whenever it was, and I would happily buy it again today knowing what I know. But you can get it free right now, so do it.
All right. Now, this is kind of it's very intriguing. A Linux command that you should never say out loud.
Okay, I pointed to the article. Actually, if you look in some of my older show notes, I had actually included, to talk about it at some point before, and we just never got around to it because I don't know why somebody keeps on talking about other things on this show, and we never get to cover all the things that we were going to anyway. And I don't know who it is, but we need to have a talk about that. Anyway, I saw the link to this article, and I was thinking, oh, I'll bet this is this particular command. And of course, the person says, "Oh, well, this is how you can, put an alias for it and stuff like that." But it's not swearing if it's a command name. If it's a legitimate command name in an operating system, it's not swearing. So this command is called the fuck. All right. It's not 2 words. It's 1 word. THEFUCK. All right. So it's not swearing because it's actually 1 word. All right. All right. I actually had a problem with this with one of the Android games that I play. Believe it or not, I'm digressing in a way that's actually linked to this. It actually makes sense.
We will not mention the name of this word again, but okay, please continue.
Okay, but anyway, so there's some of the gaming sites that you go on, some of the multiplayer online games, strategy games, and so forth. One of the ones I love is called Dominations. Dominations is really cool. It's an Android game, and you get to create alliances. It's like Clash of Clans, only better. Mm-hmm. But it's got better graphics. The idea behind it is better. The progressions are more interesting. I mean, it's kind of an adult version of Clash of Clans, if you will.
All right.
And not taking anything against Clash of Clans. I dig Clash of Clans. I even play Clash Royale on a fairly regular basis. So I dig it. But I think that for that type of a game, what's commonly called base building games, Dominations is a better one. But I digress yet again. Okay. Anyway, so a lot of these games, they try to block what they think of as bad words. Okay. So I called my alliance originally Corios. Okay, Corios is a name that I had given to a planet on one of the books that I'm working on a science fiction novel I'm working on. So I thought I'm going to name it after this planet that I created, and the planet is named after one of the muses of ancient Rome, for choreography, Corius. But they're so worried about the idea that somebody might include a bad word that they star out the part that they think is the bad word inside the other word. And in this case, and this really bugs me because it means that somebody out there can't spell either, but the word was H-O-R-E. They had starred out H-O-R-E. Now, if you actually know how to spell and you've got better than a grade 8 education, you actually know that there's a W in front of that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but they had started out because they said, you're using a bad word inside another word, therefore we have to start it out. So I wound up having to call my alliance Calliope instead, which is, also named after, a muse. But anyway, so it actually, it's actually pretty silly. But in this case, it's like, there are 7 letters together, so it's not really swearing. So it's like saying, WTF, like, so you're sitting there trying to type a command. And by the way, you can install this easily. You can do an apt-get install, and there it is. Apt-get installed fuck, and there it is. It's installed. But the idea is that you're trying to type a command and you can't. And it's like, man, I know this command. I don't know what the heck it is, and it remembers the last thing that you did. Okay, so you just type this like you would WTF, exclamation point, except in this case, and it actually pulls up and it says, well, perhaps you were actually trying to type this command, and this is how you do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's very helpful. And of course, it's fun because in your brain, when you've typed out something 3 or 4 times and you keep getting it wrong, what's the first thing that comes to your lips, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there you go. So I thought I'd mention it because it's just fun. It's silly. It's fun.
Okay.
And there you go.
All right, so let's move into the distribution focus.
Because we always talk about distributions, don't we?
Yes, we do, and we like talking about that. So, and we find Marcel finds so many interesting distributions that we found the ones that go inside a motorcycle.
You did Megaka, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
the one that was, Japanese
I
manga.
was surprised that was not on the list of top distributions yet. That's shocking.
Me too. I was surprised that they didn't have, lots of these other strange little distributions. I mean, we had some that were religious distributions. There was a Christian Ubuntu and a satanic Linux, and an Islamic Linux and a Jewish Linux, and it's like, we've got religious Linux distributions as well. I thought it was hilarious. But anyway, so this, there are a lot of fascinating Linux distributions, and goodness, there are tons of them. I see you're scrolling this up, but I'll hold it up to the screen. This is
a Raspberry Pi.
It's a Raspberry Pi. This is actually a Pi 2, so a Pi 2B.
Yes.
But this is a Raspberry Pi. This is actually a little tiny computer. It's a quad-core processor on it's a $35 computer. I think the case costs almost as much. I mean, the case was like the case was like $10 or something. So there's a $10 plastic case, and there's a $35 computer in there. And this computer has 4 USB ports. It has, as you can tell, an Ethernet port there. The new version, the Pi 3. I bought this one before the Pi 3 came out. The Pi 3 has wireless internet built in as well as Bluetooth, and it's the same amount of money, so it's just pretty cool. So this is, and it's a little bit faster than this one. I don't know how much faster, but it's a little bit, because I haven't taken it out for a spin. But this is a $35 computer. This is a full-blown computer. It's got an HDMI out. It's got an audio port, so you can strap on some headphones and listen to your tunes, or plug into external speakers. The operating system goes on a little memory card, which if you take a look at, if you're watching this on Hangouts, you can see that there's a little tiny micro SD card at the bottom.
And heaven help you if you don't have that card in there, because it won't boot unless you...
It won't. We talked about that on the show. That was kind of the last parting thing that I mentioned on the show. I said, a little piece of advice to anybody who's trying to do this. I thought you could just plug it in and you get the BIOS screen, that you do.
BIOS.
Nothing. Yeah. Nothing. Everything has to be on that micro USB or micro SD card.
Yeah.
So something has to be on there. So if you plug it in and nothing happens and you don't have a card in there, it's not broken.
No.
It's because it actually needs what's on that micro SD card to start the computer, to actually start it, and it runs off a. Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say that we just did a story. If you're ever wondering how viable these little computers are getting, we just did a story about a week ago about. I think it was Samsung just came out with a 256 gigabyte micro SD card.
Yeah.
So, hey, and some people have whole computers that are 256 gig, let alone on a micro SD.
Oh, I know, and the only reason that our drives are so big these days is because none of us ever deletes anything anymore.
Right.
Because they keep giving us more space. Yeah. Anyway, and finally, it has down there, for the people that are actually watching live, there is actually also a micro USB port there, and the micro USB in is actually for the power supply. Okay, so you can. I did not buy a power supply with this. I just used one of the ones from the countless tablets that I've bought over the years, and phones and whatever, and it works just fine. So, so there you go. So that is a Raspberry Pi. And I decided what I would do. Sorry, go ahead.
Who doesn't have that box of cords, sitting somewhere, and you forget what it goes to, but you don't want to throw away a cord, and
you don't want to throw it away. It's like I've got 6, parallel printer cords. You never know when I might need those again.
Or a SCSI cable. Or a SCSI cable.
Do you know? Yeah, exactly. Do you know how much I paid for that SCSI cable? I'm not throwing it out.
And it's like about an inch and a half, inch thick, 1 inch thick cable.
Okay, true story, and this is a true story. This is true story. I have my original Dell laptop downstairs. Okay, This is a laptop that has a 150 meg hard drive in it. Okay, which was a big deal at the time. This notebook. It's like this thick. Okay, it has I think it's a 12-inch screen or something like that. It's pretty darn heavy for a notebook, but at the time it was kind of revolutionary. This thing cost me $8,000.
Oh my gosh!
U.S. or Canadian?
Canadian. It was $8,000, and I bought, and I actually paid for it with extra money, a docking port. Remember docking ports?
Yes, yeah, I did, yeah.
I bought a docking port. So all told, I probably spent like $1,000 on this computer. And I know that there are computers that cost that much. I'm talking to you, Apple. I know that there are computers that cost that much today. But you don't have to. You don't have to. You can buy a really nice laptop for like $350 with like tons of processor, lots of power, lots of drive storage space and so forth, that is orders of magnitude beyond what this old Dell notebook was. But anyway, so there are things that you don't throw away because dude, I spent a lot of money on that, man. I'm not throwing it out. I'm never going to use it again, but I'm sure as heck not throwing it out. Anyway, so this time around when I decided I was going to look at a bunch of Linux distributions, I decided that what I was going to do is I was going to try a whole bunch of different Linux distributions on this thing. Because the question has come up, could I actually run a desktop on this? A usable desktop. And by usable desktop, I mean things like web browsers, office suites, word processing, spreadsheets. This is often billed as a great learning computer for kids. And in fact, it's been used that way countless times because you install a Linux distribution on it. You've got free development environments in either C or PHP or whatever language you want. They're all free. They're all free stuff. And you can learn to code and you can learn to program and you can give yourself a head start, on something that's $35. So it's kind of hard to beat. And now there's even a Pi Zero, which is a tinier computer that you can get for like $5. It's insane. It's insane what you can do with almost no money in terms of a computer. I can't believe someone is. Someone that I don't even recognize is Skyping me. That's crazy. Yeah. I didn't even know I had Skype on. I just turned the volume down. Hate them. Go away. Anyway, so I decided I would try a bunch of different Linux distributions. Strictly from the perspective of operating it as a desktop computer, because of course it's been used for all sorts of things. People set it up as media servers. People have built robots around these things. People have built all sorts of things. And the screenshot that Ben is showing is I'm holding up the computer in front of one of the desktops that that I set up. And the one I believe in the picture is actually Ubuntu Mate, which is Ubuntu 15.04 with the Mate desktop. And I set up a full-blown desktop on that one. I also I was in the process of taking my little card and erasing it, and you know how you do this. You sit there, you open all your tabs ahead of time with the idea, okay, I got to get the download link for this, the download link for that. I want the page there because, of course, you're taking notes on this as you go along. And I ran across something that was really kind of cool, something called Berry Boot. And I just sort of went like, oh,
Berry as in like raspberry, so
yeah,
like it's something
Raspberry
native to
Pi,
raspberry.
Berry Boot. So I thought, for somebody that actually just wants to take this out for a spin, who wants to try this out, this might be just the thing. Okay, and in this case, Berry Boot, what it lets you do is you boot off this minimal operating system. So Berry Boot in itself is tiny. You burn it, so to speak. You copy it, and copying it's easy. You just make sure you have a formatted card. It's just like FAT formatted. So if you just get the thing directly from your local computer store, Best Buy or whatever, it's going to be pre-formatted. Okay, so I've got a little tiny 8 gig micro SD card in there, and it was formatted, standard Windows formatting, VFAT, and all I did was just unzipped the Berry Boot file on there, stuck it inside the Raspberry Pi, and booted. Okay, and if you boot it up, the first thing you get is this menu, which gives you the opportunity to start installing different versions of the operating system. And I went and took out the picture in my document there. I went and took it out. I meant to put it back in, but I took it out. Sorry. Which basically shows you here are a whole bunch of different operating systems, that you can install. There you go. There you go. They actually show it on that page as well.
Berry web server, mem tester, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a whole bunch there, and you just click on the link, and it'll download and install it to the card for you. So you don't even have to futz around with the card to try these different operating systems. And here's what's cool about this is, as we mentioned, there are 4 USB ports on the Raspberry Pi. If you want, you can even use one of these, a USB key. Okay? And, so you take your USB key and you just plug it into the Raspberry Pi here. How come nobody can ever put in the USB key on the right side first? There's a special place in hell for the person who came up with these things.
It always takes 3 tries.
You always have to turn the damn thing around and plug it back in. And it's true with the micro USB slot as well. Why can't you make it so that it is impossible to screw it? It must be possible to do that. I swear there's an engineer somewhere that goes, we're going to make sure they can never get this right on the first crack. Although to be fair, I when you go into a store and there are 2 doors and only one of them opens, I always get the wrong one.
I do the same thing, but mine is with shirts. Like you pull them off the shelf and you open them. I always put shirts on backwards. It's my curse to bear, always backwards.
Yeah, mine is the doors. I always get the wrong door.
Yeah, but I think you'll like USB-C. So anywho,
will I now?
Well, USB's you can't reversible, so it's good stuff. So you plug in the USB, the mini USB.
So you can take a USB key, and I'm almost ashamed. I went looking just before I came on the show. I thought, I should have a USB key just to show you that you can plug it in, and I found this thing. I got to hold this up. This is a verbatim USB key. Okay, laugh. Get ready to laugh.
64 megabytes.
64 megabytes.
What are you gonna do with it all?
Nothing. I don't know what you can do with 64 megabytes anymore. You can still find because they keep all these things on the internet. The internet is forever, or and it might even be forever. It might outlast the human race. Who knows? But you can get like Linux distributions that fit on a 3.5-inch floppy, or Stiffy as they call them. But I digress. Anyway, so I thought, what a great idea. I don't have to sit there and erase each one of my cards each time, because the other thing that Berry Boot lets you do is it lets you run and boot multiple operating systems. And if you take a look at the screenshot that I did, I installed, I've got 5 different distributions installed on this little card at the moment. including I went and reinstalled. Did I reinstall? No, I didn't reinstall Ubuntu Mate. So Ubuntu Mate isn't on there. Otherwise, I'd have 6 at the moment. But you can reinstall, or you can install and boot up off of it. And because you can use a USB key, and it boots up off this little card. Okay, so Berry Boot boots off this little card. It'll transfer booting to your USB key. Okay, so you can have external operating system boot. It's pretty cool.
So a very much more efficient way of trying different distributions, because then you don't have to wipe the whole card and start over from square one every time. Just
yes,
kind of.
It's very good that way. Yes.
Very good. Wow. Really stretching for that one, but
yeah, I know you were too. You're the one that started it. You started it. See, I sound like Donald Trump. You started it. Oh wait, am I allowed to get into U.S. politics here?
No,
we don't.
Well, he started it. That's the kind of argument a 5-year-old makes. No, it's not. Did you watch that clip on the news?
I did. How could you avoid that?
Oh man, how embarrassing! How embarrassing that you'd even, that you'd actually consider supporting this guy beyond that day. I'm sorry, people, but if you think this guy would make a, seriously, we got problems here. But anyway, I digress. It's your problem. We're just hoping it's not going to be the whole world's problem once this is over.
Amen.
Anyway, this was paid for by. I'm a Canadian. Okay. Anyway, and just outside here, by the way, there's a moose station just outside my window here, and a beaver training camp. Okay, so I am out in the wilds of Canada.
I didn't know they needed training. I thought beavers just did what they did naturally.
Beavers are actually our armed forces. There are secret commandos, and if you ever come up against us, you will rue the day.
Well, I did not know the Mounties.
They have sharp, pointy teeth. They have those little incisors, which are really kind of nasty.
We have Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
You have SEALs. We have beavers. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Anyway, so back to the Pi. So I loaded up all these different Linux distributions to get a feel for what it would be like to operate off these different things as a Linux desktop. And of course, the one that tends to get recommended right off the bat, which I've got on there as well, is, do I have it on there? Is Debian, Debian Jessie Raspbian. I thought it was Wheezy, but it's actually Jessie. Raspbian is kind of an optimized, tuned version to run on the Raspberry Pi. It's fine. There's nothing terribly wrong with it. And obviously, by optimized, it's a $35 computer. Okay.
I feel like that's what you say about an ex-girlfriend. She was great. She was fine.
Yeah, Raspbian has a nice smile and a good sense of humor.
Right.
We're strictly in the friend zone, though. It looks pretty. It looks awfully minimalistic to me, to be perfectly honest. It does come with an Office suite. It does come with development environments if you actually want to use it for that. So I can't beat up on it too much. And yes, they've slimmed it down to the point that it's probably one of the fastest ones that you get out there. But we tend to be used to a little bit more these days. And this is where, by the way, I'm gonna jump ahead before I issue my verdict here. But this is where if you're going to get one of these things, if you're going to try this out, obviously the 3 is the way you want to go. You can still buy the 2 on Amazon, but don't, because the 3 is the same price. You might as well go for the Pi 3.
It makes a lot of sense.
What's your feeling of the Raspberry Pi Zero?
Haven't tried it. I honestly, I will order one, and I'll order one, and I'll try to test it out, by the time the next show rolls around. But I have not yet had the opportunity to try it out, so I don't actually know.
We just did a Tuesday. We just did an update Tuesday that they just added camera support to the latest Raspberry Pi Zero. So,
yep,
good stuff.
So no, I'll try it out. I'll see if I can get my hands on one. I've got a couple of Pis around here that I've played with, but this is one of 2 that I've got sitting here.
I mean, it's cheap even by Raspberry Pi's already incredibly cost-efficient standards.
Yeah, I mean, shipping is probably going to cost you more than the computer will.
Well, if you have Amazon Prime, you get free shipping.
That's true, and I do have Amazon Prime. I have questioned, I don't know how many times, whether it's worth paying the money for it, especially since the Canadian version does not give you access to the video.
Oh.
You're not
so-
missing anything.
Not that I'm bitter about this, but getting the free shipping. I mean, the number of times that I order from Amazon, getting the free overnight shipping on everything, on pretty much everything anyway. I mean, most things is, it's probably a wash, but the convenience factor has been awfully good. So
Right.
there you go. Anyway, so I loaded that up, and it's pretty minimalistic. I also loaded up, as I pointed out, Ubuntu Mate, beautiful desktop, and that's one of the screenshots it's the first screenshot that I showed you there, where I'm holding the the Pi in front of it. Mem Tester, I installed just for the fun of it. One of the interesting ones there, OpenELEC, by the way, is a media server. Okay, sort of like a Roku, that sort of thing. I haven't had a lot of chance to play with that one because I was trying to concentrate on the desktop stuff. But something that caught my attention was the Android KitKat. That's kind of interesting.
Android KitKat. That's it.
Yeah, it's really preliminary, and as you know from I think we discussed this last month. Android is coming to the Android Play Store is actually coming to Chromebooks.
Wow.
Right? Did we not talk about that?
Briefly, very briefly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's coming to Chromebooks. I mean, it's just it's not 100%. I mean, it's official, but it's they're just teasing us at the moment. So it's coming to Chromebooks. There's been a Chrome extension for a long time where you could try to run certain types. So it's obvious they were working on it in the background there, but it was only so good and only worked with so many different pieces of software. But I was interested to see how it would work on there. The short version is not very good. They warn you ahead of time. I mean, when you're installing it on there, they're going, it may or may not work. It may run some of the programs. This is just, this is early days for testing. So, but again, it shows you, part of the power of this thing is, the opportunity to try and experiment with different things. And the other one that I loaded up on, and this is going to be the clear winner for me, by the way, was the clear winner for me, is a Fedora. Fedora 21 running the Mate desktop. And I've got a nice screenshot of it at the bottom there. The last screenshot that I've got in the show notes shows my Fedora desktop running off my Raspberry Pi, and it had the most, it had a modern-ish version of Mozilla.
Mm-hmm.
The Google Chrome.
Well, wait.
Sorry.
We're at the bottom of the hour, so we got to take. And then we'll sing.
Fine by.
This is the Computer America Show. We're talking to Marcel Gagné. We'll be right back with him. It's our All Linux show. Stay with us. Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. Long before Vistaprint asked me to tell you about them, my wife and I have been using Vistaprint for years, making business cards, having the Computer America logo placed on the polo shirts we use at conventions like CES, even printing a business card for our personal lives with our home address and phone number. In fact, Vistaprint offers tons of custom products for home and office needs, and Vistaprint absolutely guarantees you'll love their products every time, or they will make it right. In fact, they'll give you 500 business cards for just $9.99 when you enter my promo code Craig at checkout. Just go to their website at www.vistaprint.com and see how easy it is to design your own stuff using their web-based custom design service. Remember to use my code Craig and save up to 50% over their regular pricing. So don't wait. Go to vistaprint.com and order today. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering, or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
No, not drone bombers, drone photo bombers. I'm Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, Super Grip Lock. Yay! It's amazing what inventive people can do with some hook and loop fabric and a sewing machine. Super Grip Lock is a 9.5-inch long strip when the hooks and loops are engaged, with a small pocket on one end and instructions printed on its synthetic fabric backing. You undo it, stick that little pocket around one end of the toggle, that's the deadbolt handle thing, wrap the length around that once, then around the doorknob, and attach the hooks and loops again. If you didn't do it backwards, and almost everybody does it backwards the first time or two, then always gets it right, you'll find that your deadbolt can't turn, not even with a key. Bottom line, for something that doesn't weigh much more than a shoelace, Super Grip Lock is incredibly strong at keeping out visitors who just don't belong. Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America.
I hate those deadbolts that don't work. They're awful. So, welcome back to the Computer America Show. I feel like, and by the way, those of you who don't know, those Marty Winston News Tips Bulletin Reviews are actually produced by Craig Crossman. Fun story. And I feel like one time you should, when you're putting it all together to the music and everything, I feel like you should add in those sound clips, like the oohs and the ahs and the clapping and the cheering, kind of give it that infomercial kind of, bit,
Next week we'll do that.
Billy Mays, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just zazz it up. Greg.
Okay.
Zazz it up.
We'll zazz it up. Okay.
Right. So
we're ready for Linux playtime or not?
Oh, sorry.
We were just
going to finish up on this.
The Fedora Mate 20. Is it
yeah,
Mate?
Yeah. Okay. So final verdict is this. For the most part, it's actually a pretty capable desktop. However, okay, and this is where the however comes into play.
Asterisk.
And this is on the Pi 2B. Remember, okay. So it may be, things may be different on the Pi 3. I wish I had one. I had one instead of this one, but I have the Pi 2B. When it comes to things like YouTube videos on the browser, it hurts the processor. Okay, the processor, and I don't know if my screenshot. I don't know if I have a low. If I have a low. I'm trying to take a look at my screenshot there. The percentage of CPU, but the percentage of CPU was like 79% there. With a number of different applications. Now, with my browser open, and it was actually going down. And I found out that if I was running on something like Twitter or something like that, or a news site or whatever, that wasn't trying to play a video, that my CPU usage stayed up around 50% or something like it, which is fine.
Okay.
As soon as I went on YouTube, however, on any of these. Okay, as soon as I went on YouTube and tried to play a YouTube video, all of a sudden the processor would be like 154%. It was dying.
Really?
Yeah, it can't handle the desktop experience plus the multimedia being delivered, which is interesting because it makes a really capable multimedia server. People use it as multimedia servers all the time, but they're not running a desktop and multimedia services.
Right. So the answer to the question, Pi to be or not Pi to be.
So this is what Ben was talking about. You
went Pi 3.0. Okay, exactly.
Anyway, no, seriously. So it makes a lovely desktop, and unless you're trying to play videos on YouTube or something like that, which sadly is the sorts of things a lot of people do. It's not that it's not doable, but it is. It hurts it. It's a bit slow. Whereas almost anything else, the performance was just fine. I mean, I worked in LibreOffice, and I had no trouble working on documents in LibreOffice. I had no trouble connecting to other servers and using it as a remote desktop on other servers. I had no trouble doing just about anything. In fact, the Raspbian version even has its own little mini Minecraft built in, which hopefully we'll get to at some point here. So yeah, I think it can be a good desktop replacement. I still think it's a great little project for somebody to experiment and learn about computers. And if you're a parent out there, get one of these things for your kid.
Right.
Honest, this is just cool. I am loving it. I'm going to do a lot more with this as time goes on. But I really did want to take it out as a full-fledged desktop. Oh, and finally, Google Chrome. Last thing, I promise. Last thing before we move on. Google Chrome, unfortunately, does not work particularly well at all. It's the real killer. It is deadly on this
I
thing.
heard it's pretty much a memory hog.
Oh, it's pretty much a memory hog on my computer here, which has 4 gig of RAM on it. But no, it is, which is why Chromebooks are so cool, because they've stripped away everything, and the only thing that's left is the browser. So it's pretty cool there. But yeah, on my Acer notebook, I've got a Core i3 here, a dual core. It's 4 years old, I think, this notebook now. 17-inch monitor, and if I've got Chrome open for a while, eventually it just starts. I mean, you can hear it grinding. The fan is going away and stuff like that. So especially if you're trying to do multimedia type stuff on it. So yeah, it's a little bit power hungry, and Chrome is probably the biggest problem with this thing at the moment. So if somebody can come up with Chrome OS and I can't believe that they won't. I know, in fact, I know that there's a project out there where somebody is working on Chrome OS for the Raspberry Pi. I think it's going to be a winner, man.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get to some playtime here, because we don't have time. Let's talk about, and we didn't get a chance to talk about Chalet OS for some reason. You had the link.
You know what? I'll leave it for next time. Just to do, we'll leave it to next time. I mean, we talked about like 4 different distributions here, so let's just move on so we can talk about some of the other things.
Let's talk about Pocket Mine. Okay.
Okay, I've got a YouTube video out there. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, Freethinker at Large, it's my YouTube channel. I've got game videos there that I've done with my kid in particular, who's a big gamer. And in fact, a lot of the game videos I've done is because he wanted to do game videos with Dad on YouTube. So there we go. But Pocket Mine allowed me to run. And we talked, I think, a year and a half ago now. Wow, is that long ago? I talked about running a Minecraft Pocket Edition server using Pocket Mine.
Yeah,
sorry?
No, continue. Yeah.
Okay. And that worked for a while, and then there came a bunch of upgrades to Minecraft Pocket Edition, the actual Android version of it, and presumably the iOS version, but I don't have any experience with that one. And it really didn't work as well anymore, which was a drag, because I had my son and all his friends from school would log onto the server and build these wonderfully complex things. In fact, again, some of the videos show some of the things they built. It was really quite amazing. Pocket Mine is still out there. It still exists, but the development branch that they're working on is a little bit difficult to install, because you got to install bleeding edge PHP 7. You've got to make sure that you pick up the code from some different GitHub repositories. You have to install the old version, get scripts from a different place, upgrade those scripts. There are so many hoops that you have to jump through that I was having difficulty with the idea that I could even do it. I'm sure they'll get back on top of it at some point and make it simple again, because that's where they're headed with this new code that they're working on. But it has made it very difficult to run the latest code without jumping through these massive hoops, and it's because they're trying to optimize it by using the latest PHP. So I don't blame them for that, but it has made it difficult for people who might want to follow the instructions that I created in that one YouTube video that explained it. So again, my son said, we haven't had the Minecraft server for a while, and my friends at school want to run it again. Is there any chance we can get it back online? It's like, okay. So I spent like two and a half days trying to get a Pocket Mine server up and running, and I got it running on my PC, and it's like, great. So I tried to move it to my cloud-based server, and it wasn't working there. So there were things that were missing there. Like, oh, man. So I thought, okay, are there alternatives? Because when I looked for alternatives for a Minecraft Pocket Edition server 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, there really weren't any. Anything that existed was just so new that, and one of them got shut down for DMCA violations. Anyway, it was called Bukkit. Bukkit, and apparently it was kind of the most advanced one out there.
Full circle.
What's that? Sorry.
Full circle, as in we
full circle, exactly. So somebody created one sort of as a play on that name, and they called it Nukkit. Nukkit, Nukkit. And if you go to the website, it says the nuclear-powered Minecraft Pocket Edition server. Yes, very cute. And I thought I thought Craig would like this one. Okay, and I thought Craig would like this one because it runs on Java.
No!
Yay! Okay, so it runs on Java, and if you go to the there's a CI. I'll be good. there's a simple start shell script. In fact, I don't have it in the link there. I'll add it to the show notes so that it's visible. But there's a simple shell script. You just make sure that you've got Java. It runs on Java 8. So when I first tried it, I only had Java 7 running on my PC. I installed Java 8, worked perfectly. So you've got the start file. It's a start.sh on a Linux server. Apparently, it runs on Windows as well, although I haven't tested it. But if you want to run a server, you run a Linux server, right? Anyway. So if you're trying to run one on the internet, obviously you're going to run one on a Linux server. You start the file, it fires everything up, it builds everything up, and you've got a fully running Minecraft Pocket Edition server, and it just works out of the box. It's lovely. I will do a video on this. I promised my son that I would do a video for my YouTube channel to show, to go through the installation procedure so that other people can do it as well. So I will have a video for this as well. I just don't have it in the show notes at the moment. And maybe I'll have it by the time we run around on this next time. And there's also there's a forum where people discuss, the various development and plugins for it. And as with all Minecraft servers, there's a plugin architecture, or I should say Minecraft open source servers. There's a plugin architecture. And the first plugin you're going to want to get, and I've got a link to the plugins there, is called Welcome. Okay? Right. Welcome, and all you do with the plugins is you just stick them in the plugins folder. After you have to run it once, so you have to start it once. You plug it, you put it in the plugins folder, and then you just type reload. So you don't even have to shut down Minecraft at this point. You just reload. And what it will do is it will ask you to register your username. Now, if you've got a kid, or if you're an adult who plays this stuff, you know that if someone goes in and tries to impersonate you, it's evil. And of course, if you are the op or the operator of a server and somebody logs in as you and then they are griefers, as in they cause you grief, they'll go in and destroy all the wonderful things that you've created inside your world. So Welcome is an all-inclusive sort of program where you can change the welcome and goodbye messages on the system, but it also forces you to register. So the first time through, you have to type /register space a password. And the next time you come in with your user ID, all you do is go /L or /login, and you put in your password so that you authenticate as yourself. So that way, nobody can come into your server pretending to be you, especially if you happen to be the operator.
Okay. All right. I think we have time. I want to move over to this home entertainment because this is obviously things that we talk a lot about here on the show. Basically, you're talking about how you get all your music, videos, and other electronic entertainment streamed to all those gadgets you have around your house.
I'm sure that all of us who do this are in the same boat, but we've got gadgets everywhere. I mean, there are PCs all over this house. There's, we've got Android tablets. I've got 2 NASs in the basement. I've got an old Buffalo NAS, which was my first one I bought. Mm-hmm. I try to keep that one just for backups. Although it has a DLNA server in it. I have a PS3, a Wii. I use the PS3 to play videos from my DLNA servers. Also have a Chromecast. I mean, they're gadgets everywhere. I have a Roku on the television upstairs here. So tons of crap. But on my PCs, and every PC in the house has got videos on them as well, or they've got music that I've ripped. I mean, these days I subscribe to Google Play Music, and I do that because I can get pretty much anything I want anytime I want. But I don't know how many CDs over there, like tons of CDs I've bought since the beginning of CDs. Foolishly, I was one of those people who said, "Oh, CDs are the new thing, so I'm going to sell all my old vinyl albums." Yeah.
Shifted to the wrong medium.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the wrong medium, but because I'm not sure that I'd play my vinyl. But nowadays it's like it'd be nice to have. I had hundreds and hundreds of albums.
Look, the right medium today is no medium. I mean,
exactly. I agree with Craig on that. I agree completely, which is why streaming services are so popular. I mean, the convenience, the ability to just call up what you want, whatever you want, it's fantastic. I love it. And I used to spend, I don't know, maybe a couple $100 a year on CDs, on average. I mean, every month or so I might have bought a CD. I mean, that was kind of the way it went, which is why I have so many damn CDs. But that's kind of the way I did it. And then Google Play Music came out, and for I think when I signed up with it was like $7.99 a month. So I think it's $9.99 a month now, if I'm right. But on all my devices, I can basically get the world's music.
What is it?
Like,
there's a comedian on Netflix, not sure about Canadian Netflix, but yeah, it's here in the U.S. Gary Goldman, he has a new special out, and he did a bit about this where he was talking about, people went up to Steve Jobs and they were like, so you want? It's like, I want music on my phone. It's like, okay, you want your music on your phone? We can do that. It's like, no. I want all the music on my phone. I want every song ever made in the world on my phone. It's like, okay, we can do that. How much are we willing to pay for it? And they're like, nothing. We're willing to pay nothing for this privilege. Thank you. Work on it. And I think that's what people do. They want low cost, affordable, even free sometimes music, and no matter what music they want it available.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm for convenience. I'm big into subscriber services. I love subscriber services, whether it's Netflix or whether it's access to Google Drive or Google Play Music or Google Books or although I buy books, I tried subscription services for books, and frankly the selection just isn't there. And like everybody else, I want the latest title, so I'm still going to buy it from Kobo, or usually from Kobo, occasionally from Amazon. But I love subscription services just for the ease of subscription services. But that doesn't change the fact that I have tons of files. I have DVDs. My kids still watch a lot of the DVDs that we had in the house, but we never plug in the DVD player anymore. It's never on it. It rarely happens. A few days ago, we found out that there were movies that we hadn't ripped yet, and there are a lot of programs to rip your movies into digital files. Sorry, Craig.
No, that's what I'm saying. Continue on.
You have a PS3. I mean, that's a DVD player.
Yeah, but the PS3 is in the basement, okay, and the DVD player is upstairs, and it's not convenient. Like everybody else, I want it wherever I am.
Yeah, and
right.
These cloud subscription services are really the way. I mean,
even that.
Yeah, it's the next step, and I think Apple's iTunes was was sort of like the founder of digital music, and you could download them, and you can have 1,000 songs, or how big your hard drive on your iPod was.
Yeah.
That's changed now again.
Did you guys hear about the disturbing report? We didn't cover it in the news because it was a rumor, and Apple was very quick to say no, that's not going to happen. But there was a rumor going around that by 2018, within 2 years, Apple was going to stop selling music altogether. They were just going to move strictly to Apple Radio and
that
have
wouldn't actually surprise me at all. I don't know if it's true, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they came out they were real quick to say no, folks, please keep buying music. But there are rumors that they're switching over to completely subscription.
Yeah,
well,
but
subscription. Sorry, go ahead, Craig.
You can with the subscription model again. You don't have the music physically residing on your device, but you can have access to it at any time. The only thing that worries me is that is if you go on a plane or if you go someplace where you can't get Wi-Fi.
Well, I mean, a lot of services have overcome that. I know Google services do this, and Netflix is looking into it, where you can actually download things, turn it onto airplane mode or turn it off, and next time you reconnect, it'll kind of delete it off your phone or your tablet or whatever. But it lets you have offline viewing. They're doing that
for a short time. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Google Play Music, and I really hope Google isn't evil, but Google Play Music is brilliant that way. I have a subscription, and I can create. You can't do this with individual songs, but you can create a playlist. And I'm from the days of mixtapes. Okay, Craig, you know what I'm talking about. Mixtapes, baby.
Of course. Yes.
I'm from the days of mixtapes. You'd put together mixtapes, a collection of songs that fit a particular theme or mood or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I do that on Google Play because Google Play lets you create playlists. But here's the cool thing, okay? Let's say I want to take my playlist. I'm into I have summertime music playlists and I have crying songs, which are all songs that have crying or tears or something in the title. Things like this. I have anti-establishment songs, songs about fighting the man, that sort of stuff. like Eric Clapton's song. Anyway, so I have playlists of all types. But what Google Play Music lets you do is you can download all the music in a playlist or an album, not individual songs, but an album to your device. Okay? And then you take your phone with you, and I don't know about you, but I can't afford an unlimited data plan on my phone. So I go for a walk, and I plug in my headphones, and I listen to my current playlist or an album that I'm into at the moment, or a couple of 3 albums I'm into at the moment, and they're all on my phone. So Google Play lets me do that, and I love that. I think that's
how long can you keep them on the phone before they?
Near as I can tell, until I run out of space, or until I'm no longer a customer of Google's.
Okay. So.
Which I don't foresee changing anytime in the anytime in the near future. But anyway, but I still have like tons and tons of media files, and of course, if you're the sort of person who downloads your TV shows. Because you can't get it on your local station, or it's on a service that you can't get, or it's in the U.S. and you can't get it in Canada. Not that I advocate this in any way, shape, or form. Okay.
VPNs are
but
wrong.
I've heard that people do this every once in a while. Okay. And I've heard that, and as I understand it, I even have neighbors who do this. They've talked about it on the street.
So the 3 links that you gave here was the SourceForce.net. You have a Universal Media Server and Plex TV.
Yes. So pretend that you've got all these digital files, and like I've taken all my kids' Thomas's and Dora DVDs and stuff like that. I have ripped all those using software on my Linux system. K9 Copy is the one that I used a lot. K9 Copy will take my DVDs and convert them to digital files, and so that I don't have to replug in this DVD player that we don't use anymore. So they're all on my NAS, which is a 3 terabyte Western Digital NAS. It's got lots of room, and I've got all these movies which have been ripped into smaller formats, but I want to be able to play them wherever I am in the house. And although my PS3 can do that, there are file formats that, for whatever reason, especially if you're trying to use the modern formats like MKV or something like that, that the PS3 won't play. The Roku will play them, the PS3 won't, or the PS3 will play them, the Roku won't. It's a pain in the butt. So what I wanted was a DLNA server that would make it possible for me to pick up from my PC and play it to anything in the house. So I started looking for DLNA players that I could run on a Linux system. So because on my Linux system I can mount all the drives, and I can say this is where all the video and all the music and all my all the pictures we've taken from for the last 15 years on digital cameras, they're all sitting on these drives in the house, and I want to be able to play a slideshow of our trip to wherever, to Disney a couple of years ago, at a moment's notice on any device. DLNA server, that's Digital Living Network Alliance, is what that stands for, by the way, DLNA, which is an organization that decided, hey, it would be nice if we had a consistent delivery format for digital media. Whoa, that sounds almost open source, doesn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so I went looking for devices, and once upon a time, these things change over time. So I tried different things. So I've tried all of these in the last few days. Okay, Real Media, sorry, it's Real Media, not Read Media. Used to be called Mini DLNA. Okay, it's a simple project on SourceForge. It's a command line. It takes up like no resources whatsoever. It'll play most things that your system supports, but it doesn't play everything. So if you've got like MP4s or AVIs or something like that, great little program. Okay, again, takes up no resources. If you stuck this on a Pi, it would barely even know that the thing existed on there. So great, but it was limited to some of the formats that you could play. So I looked up the Universal Media Server, and part of that is that the PS3 is fussy. It doesn't always like what you play. Like, even if it's stuff that you personally recorded, there's some algorithm in there. Like I have a couple of years ago, I had a little, before our phones had high definition cameras on them, you remember those little flip cameras?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Remember those, I'm trying to remember maybe it was even called flip. But it had a little flip, and you turned it this way, and it was actually, and it had you put in a media card, you put in an SD card inside it, and it recorded everything to it on AVI files. You'd think you were allowed to play that, but Microsoft, Sony's PS3 decided that since it was recorded on this camera, it must therefore be illegal. I'm not sure where the hell they came up with that idea, because they're family videos, for God's sakes, on a camera. It's not like I sat in front of a TV and recorded the TV, which would be ridiculous. But they're my family videos, and I couldn't play them on there, so I needed something that would translate to a format that the PS3 would then allow it to be played. Okay, so I looked at something that would do that, and Universal Media Server was actually pretty good for a lot of things. It's easy. I'm sorry, Craig, but it runs on Java.
Okay.
Okay. It's easy to install, easy to run. It's got a nice interface that you can administer through a web browser. It's pretty good. The winner, however, was Plex Media Server, Plex.tv. If you go to Plex.tv, this is an incredibly mature piece of software. Runs on Linux, runs on a variety of network attached storage. You can actually run it directly on your NAS if you've got the right kind of NAS. They support a lot of different NASs. Unfortunately, neither of the ones I own.
And you can check it all out on the. We're almost out of time.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah.
It's a winner. It's a winner, and it runs on Android. It runs on everything. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. It'll deal with anything you can throw at it. It's beautiful.
And we didn't even get to odds and sods, and
I think we probably did actually in here and about.
Well, we'll talk more about. We can do it for next time. Pretty much just tell what's up for you. What's coming up next.
I've been promising for a long time to some people. I've had people who wanted me to do more Linux things online, and of course I've been trying to figure out what format I wanted this to take. Do I want a series of simple little articles? And I decided that since I keep doing these game videos for my son, that what I'm going to attempt to do is essentially follow one of my books, obviously much more up to date with some newer software and newer things, but sort of follow the general direction that they went, and create videos that so look for my YouTube channel. It's Freethinker at Large on my YouTube channel, and sometime in the next week and a half I will unveil the first of my Linux instructional videos.
Excellent, and of course we'll have you back in June. You'll be back with us on the 16th of June and we'll continue on this. Marcel, I want to thank you for being with us and telling us all about the School of Linux. Stay with us to the end. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to have Digital Trends Magazine. Matt Smith is going to be on with us. And this isn't one of the articles he did, but Digital Trends came with the year of the Linux desktop. It never came and it never will. Oh, no, but maybe we'll have some talk about that. But he's going to talk about, can a shock bracelet really soothe VR nausea? That's turning out to be a real problem. He's got some really interesting articles. And we're going to be having him on the show, and he'll be joining us in the first hour, and then in the second hour we'll be doing computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America, and also we'll have our social media winner of the week. So thank you all so much for being here with us, and Ben and I will see you same time, same place, same station. So until tomorrow afternoon, this is Craig Crossman hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'm doing that for you, Craig.
I know.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.
You're welcome.
Yes, all right. And again, thank you all for being here with us. Marcel, again, thanks for being here. And I guess we'll see you next month.
All right, you take care, Craig.
All right, take care.
Bye,
Bye,
Ben.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.